You are the insurance company. The insurance company doesn't create anything. They're arbitrage. They're a middleman. They're a payment mechanism for your healthcare.
Welcome to the Benefits Insider, where I teach you how to lower the rising cost of health insurance and healthcare in your business, increasing your profitability, increasing your valuation, and helping your employees at the exact same time. The things I'm going to share with you are things I've learned after spending 15 years in corporate finance and over a decade consulting with employers just like you to lower the rising costs of health insurance. Each of these episodes is going to be short but action-packed, and I'm going to share concrete strategies and examples, not only the what, but the why and the how. Make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on all the recent releases, and visit my website where you can download the playbook where I share with you the exact strategy, how to take back control of your healthcare budget.
How do you fix health insurance for companies? That's a big question, and it's one that I get all the time. I'm going to explain to you the three things that I think are foundational for lowering the cost of health insurance for your company and your employees, how to get more for less. So the three things boil down to removing misaligned incentives and conflicts of interest. Health insurance is rife with these, and it causes your company and your employees to pay more every year. I'll break that down for you in a second. The second thing is to strip out waste from your insurance program. You'd be surprised at how much money health insurance companies waste every day, every year, and they come back to you at renewal to get increases to cover those costs. The third thing is rewarding employees for becoming part of the solution. Today, when you think about how your health insurance is structured at your company, you probably have a deductible and co-pays. Maybe it's a $3,000 deductible. If somebody's going to have a baby or they're going to have a hip replacement or some major surgery, they're the ones that are deciding what hospital and doctor they're going to use. To them, it's only $3,000, right? But in reality, you and I know this, that surgery doesn't cost $3,000. The insurance company could pay $20,000. They could pay $100,000. They could pay $1 million. So why not give that employee the information and give them the incentive? Give them a reward if they're able to become a good consumer. You're going to hear me talk about this a lot. The only way to lower your health insurance costs is to lower your healthcare costs. People talk about health insurance all the time, and really the way I describe health insurance premiums, it's more like a symptom, if you will. It's like having a fever. You take your temperature, you read the thermometer, it's a 102 fever. Well, the fever is not what's making you sick. There's a sickness that's making you have a fever. It could be a cold, it could be a flu, it could be COVID, who knows, right? You have to actually diagnose the sickness to be able to treat it effectively. And so when we look at health insurance plans for companies like yours and ours, the number one thing I see is rising costs of healthcare. Mostly it's things that are happening inside of hospitals and expensive medications. And those are things that are actually pretty relatively easy to fix if you design the health insurance plan correctly. So once you address the cost of healthcare, it's allowing you to address the cost of insurance. There's correlation, there's not causation. So let's dive into each one of these three things: misaligned incentives and conflicts of interest. So health insurance is rife with conflicts. And I'll give you a couple of examples to highlight the point. There's a provision in the Affordable Care Act called the medical loss ratio rebate. And you've probably heard me talk about this before, but essentially in this law, it requires health insurance carriers to pay, if you're a large employer. So if you have more than 50 employees, you're considered a large employer by law. And the health insurance companies have to spend 85 cents of every dollar on healthcare, which is a well-intentioned provision in the law. They want to make sure that the health insurance companies don't take our money and not pay for our healthcare and thereby increasing their profits, right? It's a good thing. But the unintended consequence of that is it's capped the profit margin of the carriers at 15%. Right? They've got to pay out 85 cents of every dollar for healthcare. That leaves 15% for gross profit. Well, a lot of these insurance carriers, if you think about it, Aetna's owned by CVS, United Healthcare, Cigna, the big publicly traded ones. If your job as a CEO and a CFO is to maximize shareholder value and you want to increase profitability and you can only make 15%, do you want to make 15% of $1 billion in premium, or do you want to make 15% of $1 trillion? I mean, that's right. Like, we want to make 15% of a bigger number. So immediately the carrier's profit motive is opposite of what you want. They want premiums to escalate so they can take a bigger piece of it. But the other thing that we're seeing carriers doing, and this has really escalated, it's picked up pace over the last 6 years or so, is vertical integration. And if you look at each one of these big insurance carriers, it doesn't matter which one, pick any of the big four, they all do this. They own their own PBM, which is a pharmacy benefit manager. And Mark Cuban has done a really good job. If you most of us know who Mark Cuban is. He's created his own pharmacy benefit manager, otherwise known as a PBM. All PBMs are is a contracting for medications, a price contracting for medications and distribution networks. They don't really create anything, but they get to dictate the price that your insurance company pays for medication. So process that for 1 second. I'm an insurance company. I get to dictate the price that's paid at the pharmacy. How is anybody going to know that you're actually paying a really good price for the medications? And in fact, when we strip through the data, we find that insurance companies routinely overpay for medications. I'll give you an example. You can go in and get a medication that typically would be able to be purchased for $20. At the pharmacy, your members charge $30. That additional $10 over the actual price of the medication goes back into the insurance company's back pocket. But wait a second, Chris, didn't you just say the profit margin for these insurance companies was capped at 15%? Yeah, the insurance is capped. So the profit margin on premiums is capped. But these subsidiaries, pharmacy benefit management, specialty medication distribution, the providers, a lot of these insurance companies, they now own doctors. Doctors and facilities work for these insurance companies. They can make unlimited profit margins there. And actually, I'm going to share with you really quick here on screen. If you're viewing this, you're going to be able to see a breakdown of two of the biggest carriers. When you look at this table, these two tables here, this is straight from their 10Ks. This isn't my information. I actually got this off of their websites. You'll notice that Cigna here, more than 70% of their income comes from this unit called Evernorth. Well, Evernorth majorly is Express Scripts, which is a PBM. They purchased that several years ago. So put that into perspective. Most of their money doesn't come from insurance. It comes from pharmacy benefit management. Same thing for United Health Group. You can look at what United Healthcare makes. You can also look at this unit called Optum. The majority of the income in that business unit comes from pharmacy benefit management. Let's talk about this for a second, because this is really important to know. If you run a company, you want to figure out what's going on, what's wrong in healthcare and health insurance. This is one thing that you really need to understand. Pharmacy benefit managers create nothing. They don't manufacture drugs. They don't distribute drugs. They don't warehouse drugs, and they don't operate retail to distribute the drugs. That's the pharmacy. What do? They set the insurance pricing for medications. And if you're fully insured, which many of you watching this, you might be fully insured, or you might be self-insured with one of these big carriers using one of their units. They're dictating the price that you pay, and it's typically more than the drug actually costs, with the difference going back to their profitability. This is one of the justifications that they use to increase your premiums at the end of the year. The more you pay for these medications, we're sorry, you spent more in claims than we anticipated. We've got to increase your premium. So I see that as a really big conflict of interest. One of the things that we're doing is working with pass-through independent pharmacy benefit managers. Actually, for a lot of our clients, Mark Cuban's Cost Plus drug program is part of the solution, among others, but that's one that we do use, where you're not allowed to mark the cost of these drugs up. It's a pass-through cost. And all of the rebates that these drugs might generate are passed back to the insurance company, which most of our clients are self-funded. That would be you. So that's just one good example of where we see this misaligned incentive. Okay. The second thing I mentioned was stripping out waste from the plan. The biggest form of waste that we see in insurance is the overpayment for services. Many people don't understand this concept. If I came to you and said, here's a base model Toyota Corolla and here's a Maserati, which one do you think costs more? Everybody's going to say the Maserati, right? Because it's got better materials and better craftsmanship and higher performance engine and just all the bells and whistles is going to be a lot nicer, right? But, and that's expected. We're conditioned to believe the more we pay, the better quality we're going to get. But in healthcare, it doesn't work that way. In fact, a lot of times you can see a procedure, call it a hip replacement. The pricing for a hip replacement might run $14,000 to $100,000. That's literally the range I have seen those claims come in. That's just one example, but that is with every procedure in healthcare. The prices can vary that drastically. And do you know what the best quality physicians, the best providers of that surgery cost? Just think in your head what that might actually be. It's a fraction of the high end of that. Typically, you're going to get some of the highest quality physicians and facilities to do that procedure for probably $20,000 to $30,000 with a direct contract, usually less. And so what we typically see is insurance companies consistently overpaying for the healthcare that your employees are buying. And it's not the fault of your employees because they don't understand what things cost. All they know is I have this deductible. Keep that in mind because it's going to be part of number 3 here in a second. All they know is it's $3,000. I don't really care where I go. I'm just going to where I think is the best. It doesn't matter if it's $14,000 or $100,000. But you as an employer should care about that, because when we're buying $100,000 procedures when we can get it for $14,000, the insurance company, when they spend that money, they come back to you at your renewal and say, gee, Mr. Employer, I'm so sorry. Your claims were higher than we expected. We've got to raise your premiums because your claims runs, your claims expense, your loss ratio is too high. You've probably heard that before, right? But think about that problem from a different perspective. If my employees are buying, let's just say they spent $20,000 for that procedure instead of $100,000. You could buy 5 of those procedures. You could buy 5 times the healthcare for the price of 1. So understanding this one particular concept is how you are able to provide more to your employees, more benefit to your employees for less money. Big thing is that let's strip out waste. That's the number one thing that I see is the overspending. There's a number of ways you can do this. We're a big fan of direct contracts. All this is bypassing your traditional insurance pricing, going to providers and hospitals directly and saying, hey, if we cut out the insurance middleman and our insurance plan paid you directly, what kind of price would you give us? And oftentimes it's a lot less than think of the insurance company that you work with today. It's often a lot less than what they're paying those providers today. So, and there's a number of strategies on how to do it, and you can oftentimes run them side by side. There are really cool things that you can do with your plan. But the third thing, and I've mentioned this a couple times, is rewarding your employees for becoming part of the solution. And the reason why this is so important, it goes back to the $3,000 deductible. They know when they're going to go have a major procedure, it's $3,000. What's the incentive for that patient, for that employee to actually shop for their healthcare? What's in it for them to understand what it actually costs? And so employers that are winning today with their benefits, lowering their costs, driving more profitability, and giving more benefits to their employees, oftentimes are giving healthcare to their employees at no cost, giving the procedures away for free. That's the reward to the employees if they make the right decision. So I just mentioned the direct contracts. That's one strategy. If an employee was to go use a provider that let's use the hip replacement as an example. If the employee was to go in and get the $100,000 hip replacement, they're going to pay their normal benefit. So if they have a $3,000 deductible on out of pocket, or a 5 or a 6 or a 7, whatever their total out of pocket cost is, they're going to pay that to the $100,000 provider. But if they were willing to go get a second opinion, or they were willing to start off with our pre-vetted providers that were willing to do that procedure for $20,000, right? You see the difference here. It saves $80,000 on one procedure. Shouldn't we reward that member for making that good decision? And so most of our clients say, yeah, great. I will waive their however many $1,000 deductible, a $5,000 deductible, to get an $80,000 savings to the insurance. Because all of us, whether you're fully insured or you're self-funded, you are the insurance company. The insurance company doesn't create anything. They're arbitrage. They're a middleman. They're a payment mechanism for your healthcare. And so at the end of the day, you're going to pay for your healthcare, whether it's this year or at your renewal. Most of the clients that we work with, if you're like them, They're entrepreneurial and they want to take control and they want to be able to create sustainability and they don't want to waste. And so by taking this sort of approach, it allows them to give free healthcare to their employees, which is really unique and it's really cool, especially in today's market. That's something big companies aren't doing. They're not doing well. So you start talking about, I'm trying to attract talent. I'm trying to keep my talent from going to a big national firm. Those companies that are mid-size like you or me, we give away free healthcare if you go through the right channels. If you don't, that's okay. You've got regular benefits to pay for that too. It's just going to cost you some more money. It's your deductible out of pocket, right? So the other reason why it's important to get your employees involved in making that good decision, they're ultimately the ones that are going to decide how much money you spend because they're the ones that decide what doctor and hospital they go to. Your employees, they get your ID card, and to them, it looks like an Amex. It looks like a big corporate Amex. It's either your Amex, it's got your logo on it, or it's the insurance company's Amex. It's not their money. They aren't really concerned. It's human nature, right? What's in it for me? And so this is a way to engage your employees and to communicate to them. We're going to give you all the benefits that you know and love, but we're going to give you these extra resources. And if you use them properly, you can get healthcare at no cost. Now, notice I didn't say any specific vendors or super specific strategies here, is because these are simply the principles that we use in the consulting with our clients to help you design a benefit package. There's a number of ways to skin the cat here. And I'm a big fan of the crawl, walk, run strategy. Some of our clients, when we meet them, they're at a state where they say, we have to strip out 20 or 30% from our costs. What can we do? And there's a solution for that. But we have a number of clients that come to us and say, we really like these ideas, but we're not really ready to jump off that into the deep end yet. What else can I do? And so we've had to really meet our clients where they are, and that's crawl, walk, run. And so, but each one of the strategies that we put together for our clients is going to use each of these three principles. There's not a one size fits all approach. So your company's unique. Your culture at your company is unique. You have different goals and risk tolerances than the company down the street. Therefore, the strategy that you implement needs to suit your specific needs and not reside inside of a box. I hope this episode was helpful to you and that there's some nuggets that you can use, particularly as we're heading into the benefits renewal season for many of us. And if you've got ideas or questions or topics that you'd like me to cover, feel free to send me a note. I'd love to get feedback from you and want to cover the things that are important to you. But until next time, use these ideas and principles to add more profit to your bottom line and more money in your employees' paychecks. Take care.